Alright guys, Fuller coming to you with another video. I hope all is well. We talking some boxing again. One thing that the media will do, and especially when you have media controlled by a known biased source, such as Ring Magazine, we already know who that's controlled by, Oscar Jorge La Hoya, and they'll come out with narratives about certain fighters that who are on the coincidental list. You look at how Oscar Gay La Hoya runs Golden Girl, and you notice the pattern. For the brothers who are on Golden Girl, they fight maybe once every 3 years, or even less than that. For example, Landy Lara was on Golden Boy. He was not really pushed correctly. Even during the Canelo fight, Oscar Gay La Hoya never even visited him. Never visited his camp, no nothing. He was too busy on Canelo's top to do that. Jamel Charlo, he was a Golden Boy fighter, and he never got a look in. And so that's why two of these fighters went to Al Heyman, and lo and behold, their careers are very, very much changed. I mean, you see Landy Lara pulling up with Ferraris and Lambos and Phantoms, and having multiple properties, Miami, Houston, and stuff like that, investments, and they never got that treatment with Golden Boy. You fast forward and you have Rashidi Ellis, a Negro League fighter, by the way. He said that I'll punish Virgil Ortiz, and you would think that they would be in a hurry to make that fight, being that Virgil Ortiz is on Golden Girl, and that Rashidi Ellis is on Golden Girl. However, they're not really pushing for that fight, just due to the fact that Rashidi Ellis, Negro League fighter, and they don't want to see their guy go out like that. Meaning they don't want to see their guy Virgil Ortiz get beat. That's what it comes down to. So when we look at Ring Magazine, we know that's controlled by Oscar De La Hoya owns that magazine, and he also probably employs the writers to that magazine. So that magazine's going to push a narrative, and so the new narrative that came out is from a fighter that I just heard of, and recently, I just recently heard of this guy. His name is Zach Parker, and Zach Parker is now accusing Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade of ducking him and avoiding him, claiming that Demetrius Andrade, he's avoiding the fight. And also claiming that, Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade going up to 168, the power is different at 168, right? That's what he is saying. So now you have this guy, unknowingly saying that, Demetrius Andrade's afraid of him and avoiding him, but there's the truth, and then there's the narrative. And the truth is that Demetrius Andrade was trying to petition to become Canelo's mandatory at 168. However, the WBO blocked that, and Demetrius Andrade would not be opposed to fighting Zach Parker for that interim full scope belt in order to become the mandatory to Canelo. He wouldn't be opposed to that. However, with the narrative they are pushing, they're saying that he actually is opposed to doing that. You know what I mean? Zach Parker is saying that he ducked. That's what they're saying. They're saying that Demetrius Andrade turned down the fight However, the WBO blocked the fight. As a matter of fact, the WBO is trying to mandate him to fight Zanabek, that Kazakhstan guy who says Demetrius Andrade is easy work and that he'll stop him, this, that, and the other. The fans who dislike Demetrius Andrade for simply being black, I'm just going to be honest, like that's what it comes down to. But if Demetrius Andrade was a Hispanic fighter or a Caucasian fighter, they would be clamoring for him to fight Canelo, clamoring for him to fight Triple G. But yeah, like the average boxing fan who is color coordinated is clamoring for him just to fight Jamal Charlo, knowing that Jamal Charlo is on the other side of the sea and knowing that Jamal Charlo is reluctant to fight him. So the one pattern you see with Demetrius Andrade, like, people who dislike him, dislike his style, use the Canelo talking points, say, horrible fighter, you haven't fought nobody. And on a side note, Canelo would probably entertain a fight with Zach Parker, because I'm going to be honest with you. These UK fighters are very basic fighters. The only two who are really doing things are Tyson Fury and Josh Taylor. Other than that, these guys come over here and they get a dose of reality. For example, even, I'll give you a prime example once this truck passes by. I'm outside with it, outside of the boxing gym. I'll give you a prime example. Conor Ben, everybody thinks this guy is the real deal. Everybody thinks this guy is the goods, right? But he's calling Adrian Broner out, right? He's calling Adrian Broner, saying, I'll fight Adrian Broner, this, that, and the other. But guess who he's not calling out? He's not calling out Boots Ennis. He hasn't even mentioned Boots Ennis' name. And Boots Ennis said he'll fight him. He'll say, I would love that fight. And there's a reason why Conor Ben is not calling out Boots Ennis, because he knows the ending result of that. He knows what will happen if that came to it, So, with that being said, these UK guys, man, they talk a big game, but then when they really get into the ring, it's a different story. So what they do with Andrade, and I'm going to kind of wrap this video up with this last note. Well, before I wrap this up with this last note, if Zach Parker has a Twitter, what I'm going to do is say that, since he claims that Andrade is avoiding him, when really the WBO blocked him from doing this, from going this route, because he's not the super champion at 160. He's the regular champion because of these alphabet soup belts. What I'm going to say now is I'm going to say, okay, if he's afraid, if you think he's afraid of fighting you, and you're trying to fight Canelo, because everybody and their mom wants a Canelo fight. So Zach Parker is now put himself in the mix to get a Canelo fight. So if that's the case, then why doesn't he fight David Morrell Jr.? And I'm going to put a picture of him on there, and I'm going to be like, yeah, you claim that Demetrius Andrade is afraid of you. Okay. This guy's not afraid of you. So what's up with that? And I think this Zach Parker dude's promoted by the bum Frank Warren, who I dislike, and he's another racist piece of shit too. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. But we've seen what Andrade has done to Frank Warren fighters. We've seen what he did to every UK guy he's came across. Let's start with Brian Rose. We saw what he did to Brian Rose. We saw what he did to Liam Williams, and we definitely saw what he just did to Jason Quigley. He broke the dude's jaw, okay, in a matter of 2 rounds. Okay, so Zach Parker ain't a problem. But I want to end on this note. Mostly Canelo fans and mostly Triple G fans will mention Demetrius Andrade pulling out of the Charlo fight, but they don't mention the fact that he pulled out of it for financial reasons, not because he was afraid of Charlo. And they don't also mention that he resigned to fight a 2-fight deal with Showtime, and one of the Charlo sisters was supposed to be his opponent, but they didn't sign the contract. They also mentioned that he pulled out, that he ducked Erislandy Lara, but no contract was ever sent for him to fight Erislandy Lara. And Ronnie Shields said that he was asking for too much money. They don't mention that fact. They mentioned that he pulled out of the fight with Derevyanchenko, and they don't mention that he was only given maybe 2 weeks to prepare. He was just coming off of a fight with Alontes Fox, and then when he did want to fight Derevyanchenko, they decided to not entertain him to make the fight happen. You know, so all of these like haters of Demetrius Andrade will mention one side of the story, but they don't mention the other side of the story. You know, they only mention the side of the story which suits them. They don't mention both sides of the story. The other story was Demetrius Andrade. They said he was ducking Liam Williams. We saw what happened with Liam Williams. He put him on his ass, and in putting him on his ass, he just boxed him and was on the verge of stopping him early. But you know, Liam Williams throwing elbows and headbutts and whatnot. You know, and as a matter of fact, the punch that buzzed Demetrius Andrade against Liam Williams was a rabbit punch to the back of the head. They don't mention that. Now, fast forward, they're going to say he's avoiding Zanabek, a guy who has only a few fights in, and a guy that nobody has even heard of. A guy that, although he's an Olympian, Jason Quigley was an Olympian. We saw what he did to Jason Quigley. Now, this guy, they're big on Zanabek because he fought and stopped Hassan Ndam, okay, who was already a war-torn guy who already got stopped by Calvin Smith earlier, okay, and who was dropped several times against Peter Quillen in a fight, and who's also dropped several times against David Lemieux in a fight. And they think that this guy is going to beat Demetrius Andrade, and they say that he is avoiding Zanabek when Zanabek won't do shit for his career. So at the end of the day, I'm going to hold my line. It's always going to be me supporting. It's always going to be, and I hate to say it, it's always going to be me, that whole A-team against the world. Because obviously the boxing world, the old media has it against Boo Boo Andrade for some odd reasons, but this channel is always going to support him despite the setbacks that he may endure that are out of his control, or some of them that are in his control, but you see why he did what he did. But with that being said, we'll have to wait and see what happens, and we'll have to see who his next opponent is. And that's all I got for now, guys. Fula signing out. Njaram.